Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'd like to start off by firstly reiterating some points from Varsha and Fadlah. Firstly, we talk about fourth industrial revolution. If we're having challenges with electricity, if we're having challenges with literacy, if we're having challenges with the state statistical agencies, maybe we can focus on the third industrial revolution first. Fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, it can be a bit of a distraction if you're focusing on getting ICT policies right for the last 10, 20 years and implementing the policies. If you've been looking at ICT for development. I like the sectoral approach of the HSRC, and I would beg policymakers to ask themselves, why do we need an AI policy? Like, is this not addressed in privacy policy? Is this not addressed in skills policy? Research ICT Africa, we do a household survey. We did 2008, 2012 and 2017. We have 7 African countries and a number of Latin American countries. It's a representative household survey. So we found 53% of South Africans are online. Less than half of the rural population, so less than that, is connected. You're more likely to have connectivity if you are earning over 7,000 Rand a month, if you're a male and if you're living in an urban area. Now, laptop usage. So households with a laptop in South Africa, we have 17% of households with a laptop surveyed, 9% with a desktop, tablet 15%, and internet connectivity in the household 11%. Now, interestingly, all of those figures, excluding mobile use, have gone down since the last survey. This makes sense because devices are getting cheaper, mobile phones are proliferating, I guess ADSL connections are dying to a certain extent while people change to mobile phones. And on top of this, we have 47% of individuals having a smartphone. 72% access the internet by mobile phone. So has anyone here ever made their CV on a mobile phone? Done any data science on a mobile phone? Okay. So there's a qualitative difference in access as well. Mobile phones, they make us more consumers. Sure, we can share and we can create like audio-visual content, but it has to be augmented by something. And they also lend us more to our private data being exploited, as has been mentioned by Professor Kantachi. So, that's the framework, just a grounding in reality. And now I'll move on to issues related to AI in general. So we have a network of researchers, the Regional Academic Network on IT Policy, and we looked at AI issues on the continent. So the first in African countries, the first obstacle to kind of AI research is there's lots of examples coming from outside of the continent, and there's increasing examples of AI applications in the continent, but there's a little bit of a lack of them. My fear is in the next 2 years there'll be more than enough. So we have to keep ahead of that, and we also have to. Sometimes we discuss a lot of the things that are happening, and it's not actually AI. There's a tendency to focus on having an AI policy, to having AI ethics and guidelines for the use of AI, and so now we have over 100 documents with ethics, norms, and principles on artificial intelligence. I think it's useful to step back and remind ourselves that we have regimes and human rights frameworks that give us ethical direction and give us ethics, norms, and principles to apply to AI. So the danger of this growing body of AI-specific principles is the first, it's often led by the private sector, and it's often voluntary principles. And we can lose focus into where we already have attempts at regulation. We have to build our existing capacities. So I like the fact that Professor Kantakshi had a very old slide about surveillance and personal information. I like the fact that we've been reminded that we have an information regulator that is nascent and needs support. And then there's also been an issue about data. So coming up in constant discussions are people saying the data is the new oil, that the West has all this, the Western companies in the global North have all this data to work with. Like, where is our data? If we can only magically have access to this data, then we can springboard ourselves into AI. So I worry about that on a number of levels. The first is, sure, data can be the new oil. Have you ever tried to put crude oil in your car? It's not very good for the car. So the data has to be prepared in a certain way that is actually useful for an AI system. And then when you're saying, oh well, Western corporations have more data, we'd like more data, what are you actually asking for? If you're primarily talking about the data that we're giving up by using social networks and going on our mobile phones, I'm going to have a long think about whether I want to give that data to Facebook for free or give that data to a government. And so I think we have to kind of be imaginative about, we have to be realistic about what this data we're lusting for is actually going to take us to. So I mentioned the 4IR being a bit of a distraction. We have a number of top officials on Statistics South Africa threatening to resign. They have a council, I believe. There's unfilled posts. We also have huge challenges with in implementing our spatial data infrastructures. So we have appointed data custodians who are meant to facilitate the sharing of spatial data. Spatial data offers huge opportunities for artificial intelligence. Some of our big AI startups that are successful overseas are actually working with spatial data and aerial photography, GIS data. So if data is the lifeblood of AI, how are you going to generate data that helps AI applications? Is this going to be open data? Where does personal data stand here? And how does data sharing going to look? And then also, our well-organized small data that helps us to interpret the world, our statistical data. What are those capacities? So again, AI becomes a distraction here. You're going to have initiatives for doing stuff with data for the sake of it, generating data. You want to train people in kids in 4IR skills when we lack reading comprehension. So bring the question there of data. And I'm running out of time here, but the last point is that there's also seems to be on the continent this idea that there's a race in AI. We have to keep up with China, we have to keep up with other African countries. And actually, AI is not a race. So it's, I think, one of the machine learning community is one of the most vehemently open science communities I have encountered. If you publish something in machine learning, you drop it on a site called Archive. The technologies to create AI applications are open source. Sure, they've been created by large companies, but PyTorch has been open sourced by Facebook. TensorFlow has been open sourced by Google. I don't really understand the race mentality in such a open ecosystem. So I think we also need to think about that and what it means to be a leader in AI. Thank you.